Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and every light, every phone, every piece of technology around you is completely dead. No power, no internet, no emergency services. What starts as an inconvenience quickly becomes a nightmare that could kill you within weeks. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what happens during a 30-day blackout. Day by day, week by week, you'll discover the hidden dangers most people never think about, the critical mistakes that turn survivors into statistics, and the harsh psychological realities that break even the toughest people. By the end, you'll know exactly what it takes to be among the few who make it through when society collapses. Welcome to Food Fixer, where we prepare you for life's biggest challenges. If this kind of real-world survival knowledge interests you, hit that like button and subscribe, because what you're about to learn could literally save your life. The grid has just gone down. It's 6 a.m. on what seemed like a normal Tuesday, and suddenly everything electronic in your home has gone silent. Your alarm clock is dark, your phone won't turn on, and when you flip the light switch, nothing happens. Outside, the street lights are dead, and there's an eerie silence where the usual hum of modern life used to be. Most people's first instinct is to check their phones, try the lights again, maybe look outside to see if it's just their house. This is their first fatal mistake. While they're standing around confused, the survivors are already moving. Because here's what most people don't understand. You have maybe 6 hours before this becomes a life or death situation. The very first thing you need to do is get to your water sources. Before the water pressure drops, before the pumps fail, you need to fill every single container you can find. Pots, bowls, your bathtub, buckets, empty soda bottles, everything. This isn't about being prepared. This is about buying yourself time. Because once that water pressure drops, you're looking at a maximum of 3 days before dehydration starts killing people. Next, you need to get to your freezer immediately. Pack it tight with water bottles and anything frozen you can find. The goal is to create thermal mass that will keep things cold for as long as possible. What you preserve in these first few hours might be the last fresh food you see for a month. Now comes the hard part. You need to take inventory of everything you have and start rationing immediately. Not tomorrow, not when things get bad, but right now on day 1. Every bite of food you eat today is one less bite for day 15 or day 25. Focus on real sustenance: rice, beans, canned goods, pasta, oats. Forget about comfort food. Forget about eating when you're hungry. From this moment on, you eat to survive. While you're doing this, the world outside is already beginning its descent into chaos. By hour 12, the first fights are breaking out at gas stations. By day 2, every store shelf is stripped bare. The most vulnerable people, children, the elderly, anyone dependent on medication or medical equipment, they're already in serious trouble. This is where the second critical survival rule kicks in: security and discretion. Your biggest threat isn't going to be hunger or thirst in these first few days. It's other people. The moment your neighbors realize you have supplies and they don't, you become a target. Keep your doors locked, your curtains drawn. No lights at night, no smells of cooking food, no sounds of running water. You want to look just as desperate and unprepared as everyone else. Water purification becomes critical almost immediately. Municipal systems start failing within days, and even if water is still flowing, you can't trust it. Boil everything. Use purification tablets if you have them. Create makeshift filters with sand and cloth. Clean water is now more valuable than gasoline. Speaking of gasoline, park your car and don't drive unless it's an absolute emergency. Every drop of fuel you waste now could mean the difference between escaping danger and being trapped later. But here's what nobody talks about. The psychological impact hits faster than the physical hardships. By day 3 or 4, the novelty of candles and camping indoors wears off completely. The darkness becomes oppressive. Hunger becomes a constant background noise in your mind, and the terrifying realization sets in. Help isn't coming. This isn't a temporary power outage that will be fixed in a few hours. This is your new reality, and you have no idea how long it will last. By the end of week 1, you're already living a completely different life. You're eating 1 meal a day if you're lucky, 2 if you were extremely well prepared. Every movement is calculated to conserve energy. The outside world has become dangerous and unpredictable, and this is just the beginning. Week 2 is when the blackout stops being an emergency and becomes the new normal. The shock is worn off, replaced by a grim determination to make your supplies last as long as possible. Hunger isn't just a feeling anymore. It's a constant companion that colors everything you do. Your rationing becomes even stricter. Meals become smaller and less frequent. You start measuring food in teaspoons instead of cups. Every calorie becomes precious. Every bite is savored not for taste, but for the energy it provides. Outside your home, desperation is setting in across your community. The friendly neighbors who might have shared a meal or lent you tools just 2 weeks ago are now looking at your house differently. They're wondering if you have food, if you have water, if you're the solution to their growing desperation.
No lights that can be seen from outside, no cooking smells that drift beyond your walls, no conversations about how well you're doing. Desperation transforms ordinary people into dangerous threats, and advertising your preparedness is like painting a target on your back. Break-ins start happening regularly now, not just at stores. Those have been cleaned out for days, but at homes. People are getting desperate enough to take serious risks, and if they think you have something they need, they will come for it. This isn't about being paranoid. This is about understanding human nature when survival is on the line. Inside your home, a different kind of battle is being fought. The psychological toll of isolation, hunger, and uncertainty starts breaking people down. Conversations become shorter and more tense. Tempers flare over small things. Depression and despair creep in like fog. This is why maintaining morale becomes just as important as rationing food. Simple things like playing cards, telling stories, or keeping a journal become vital tools for mental survival. By day 14, you hit a major milestone. The complete collapse of normal life is undeniable. All the perishable food is gone. You're living entirely on non-perishables now, and even those are being carefully rationed. Meals are bland, infrequent, but every single bite is precious. The real enemy now isn't just hunger or thirst. It's other people who are looking at you as their potential salvation. Days 15 through 18 mark a critical shift in priorities. While hunger has been a constant problem, thirst now becomes the primary enemy. Your stored water is running low. Bottled water has been gone from stores for over a week, and municipal water systems are completely dead. Even wells aren't working if they depend on electric pumps. This is when you need to get creative fast. Build improvised water filters using layers of sand, charcoal, and cloth. If you can, construct solar stills to extract moisture from the ground. They're slow, but they work. Every drop of rainwater becomes liquid gold, so have containers ready to catch it. But here's the critical part. Just having water isn't enough. You need to purify everything because contaminated water will kill you faster than no water at all. Sanitation becomes a massive problem around this time. Garbage is piling up everywhere with no collection services. This attracts flies, rats, and creates breeding grounds for disease. You need to dig latrines well away from your living areas and water sources. Poor sanitation at this point becomes a bigger killer than hunger. Around days 19 and 21, most people hit what survivors call the 3-week wall. This is when the last of their supplies run out, when neighborhood cooperation completely breaks down, and when the hope of a quick resolution finally dies. Desperation reaches a boiling point, and people start forming groups, some for mutual aid and bartering, others to take what they need by force. Social breakdown accelerates rapidly. Neighbors who might have helped each other in week 1 are now suspicious and paranoid. Rumors spread quickly about who might still have food or water, and these rumors fuel both hope and violence. Trust becomes a luxury that most people can't afford. This is your most dangerous period. If you've made it this far with supplies intact, you're in an extremely small minority, but that makes you an extremely valuable target. Everything depends on remaining invisible. Don't trade openly, don't help others in ways that reveal your resources, and definitely don't brag about your situation, even to people you trust. Desperation makes people unpredictable, and someone who wouldn't normally hurt you might convince themselves that taking your supplies is justified if it means their children eat tonight. The mental shift that happens around day 21 is profound. This is when people stop waiting for the power to come back and start accepting that this might be permanent. The old world with its comforts and conveniences feels like a distant memory. The only thing that matters now is making it through one more day. By week 4, you're looking at total societal collapse. The veneer of civilization has been completely stripped away. Fatigue and malnutrition are setting in hard, making every task more difficult and more dangerous. A small cut that would have been nothing 3 weeks ago could now lead to a deadly infection. A twisted ankle could be catastrophic because there's no medical help available. Communities that managed to band together earlier are fracturing under the pressure. Some families are fleeing to rural areas hoping to find resources or relatives who might help. Others are forming militias to protect what little they have left. Violence becomes routine as organized groups raid warehouses, pharmacies, and homes for anything valuable. Your focus now has to be on pure efficiency. High-calorie, low-volume foods become the most precious resources. Peanut butter, nuts, jerky, rice. You're not eating for pleasure anymore. You're eating for fuel. But you still need to maintain basic routines like water purification and hand washing, not just for health, but to keep yourself mentally anchored. As you approach day 27, law enforcement and emergency services have essentially vanished. The infrastructure that once maintained order is gone, and violence has become the primary means of resource distribution. Warehouses, pharmacies, and private homes are being raided systematically by organized groups. At this point, having an escape plan becomes essential. Roads might be dangerous, but staying might be worse. You need physical maps since GPS is useless, your gear needs to be ready to move quickly, and your routes need to be planned with extreme care. Moving at night is risky, but sometimes necessary.
But here's what catches most people off guard. Disease becomes a bigger killer than violence or starvation. With no running water, no trash collection, and poor sanitation everywhere, illness spreads rapidly. Diarrhea from contaminated water, infections from poor hygiene, respiratory problems from smoke and polluted air. These kill people faster than bullets or empty stomachs. Hospitals are overwhelmed and running out of supplies, so a minor illness can quickly become fatal. The people who survive this phase aren't necessarily the strongest or the toughest. They're the ones who stockpiled hygiene supplies, soap, bleach, water purification tablets, basic medical supplies. These items become more valuable than gold because they prevent the diseases that are claiming more lives than anything else. Day 30 arrives like a grim milestone, a full month without power, without government services, without any of the systems that made modern life possible. The world is unrecognizable. Streets are littered with trash and debris. Homes show the scars of break-ins and fires, and the air carries the smell of smoke and unwashed bodies. If you've made it this far, you've accomplished something that the vast majority of people couldn't. But survival after 30 days isn't about returning to comfort or normalcy. Those concepts don't exist anymore. It's about proving that you have the resilience, adaptability, and mental strength to endure when everything familiar disappears. The questions that matter now are stark and practical. Did your preparations last 30 days? Did you stay healthy and uninjured? Did you avoid becoming a target? Did you maintain your mental health and relationships? These factors separate the survivors from the statistics. But here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to face. 30 days might just be the beginning. If the power grid has been down for a month, the problems that cause the outage are serious and complex. Recovery could take months or even years. The foundation you built in terms of supplies, security, mental preparation, and community relationships will determine whether you can survive whatever comes next. So what does it actually take to beat these odds? First, preparation is absolutely everything. You need to stockpile the essentials: water, non-perishable food, hygiene supplies, basic medical items, and tools for water purification. But just having supplies isn't enough. You need a plan for sanitation, waste disposal, and security. You need to know how to remain invisible and protect your resources without making yourself a target. Second, adaptability and discipline are what separate survivors from victims. You need to start rationing immediately, not when things get bad. Every action needs to be weighed against its survival value. Energy conservation becomes a way of life, and you need to maintain routines and small comforts that preserve mental health even when everything else is falling apart. Third, the psychological aspects of survival are just as important as the physical ones. Staying invisible and unnoticed is often safer than being well supplied and obvious about it. You need to be extremely careful about who you trust, because desperation changes people in unpredictable ways. And you need to accept the new reality quickly, because the faster you adapt, the better your chances become. The lessons of a 30-day blackout are harsh but clear. Those who survive aren't necessarily the strongest, the smartest, or the luckiest. They're the most prepared, the most disciplined, and the most adaptable. They understand that survival isn't just about enduring hardship, it's about outlasting it. If you're watching this video, ask yourself honestly, what would you do if the lights went out tomorrow for a month? Do you have the supplies, the skills, and more importantly, the mindset to make it through? Because the time to prepare is right now, while the power is still on and the stores are still open. Start by assessing what you actually have in terms of food, water, and essential supplies. Create a realistic plan for rationing, sanitation, and security. Practice keeping a low profile and protecting your resources without making yourself a target. Think carefully about building community relationships, but understand that desperation can change those dynamics quickly. Most importantly, keep learning about survival tactics, psychological resilience, and emergency preparedness. The more you know before disaster strikes, the better your chances of being among the small percentage who make it through. The grid will go down someday, maybe from a natural disaster, maybe from a cyber attack, maybe from infrastructure failure. When it happens, every decision you made beforehand will matter. Every skill you learned, every supply you stored, every plan you made could be the difference between survival and becoming another statistic.
The choice is yours, and the time is now, because when the lights go out, it's too late to start preparing.